Good morning all. Welcome to Excel Civils Academy, the educational unit of the NTR Trust dedicated for coaching students for the civil services examination. And I am Uday, the history faculty here. And today we are meeting for having an orientation on my subject history. Orientation on history. But now, at the very outset, I would like to highlight what do we mean by an orientation session on history and why such a session is important for us. What is the need? Okay. Now, we'll have to keep in mind that here we are not going to learn history. No. Why? That we will do in the regular classroom course. But then, because that's a vast subject, it will go on. But then what is today's session? Orientation is, we will learn how to learn history. That is, we are not going into the subject, yet even before we take a jump, we really want to get an idea or an approach how to do this, how to deal with this. Yes or no? It's like, for example, before you undertake a long journey, you will not straight away start the journey, right? You would want to have some understanding about what all things are necessary before I start the journey. What is the route I should go? How many routes are there? Which is the easiest and shortest route? So if you do some sort of planning, then the journey will become easy. The same way, learning history is a big task. But then, even before we learn it, we are trying to understand how to learn it. What are certain tools and techniques, that mental tools that will make the job easy, interesting and enlightening also. Okay. So that is what we will be doing in this session. We will learn some mental tools or techniques which will make the study of history easy and interesting. Now you might ask, what is the need for such a session? Why do we need a separate orientation session? I promise, as you will see, these sessions will be very, very short, hardly 15 to 20 minutes, not more than that. Okay. But why do we need them? As I just now said, I'll ask you a question. You ask yourself, when was the last time that you have read a history textbook? For most of us, it will be in the school days, right? Long school days. Because after that, most of the aspirants go for a specialization in the engineering and science subjects. Obviously, there are students who select history for their academic future, but such kind of students we find very few. So for most of us, majority of us, it is only in the school times. But okay, in those days it was fine, we by-hearted them and we mugged up and put it in the examination, we cleared it somehow. But you cannot do so in the UPSC. In the UPSC Civil Services examination, history is an important component and there is no escape from it. You eventually have to get a hold on this subject. Now, is it simply, even for UPSC, as you will be aware, the Civil Services examination conducted by UPSC is one of the most difficult examinations, not only in India but also in the world. So, studying history for UPSC is definitely not a child's play. Here, why is it so a bit painful? Because here it is not just that you will open a few random history textbooks, you will start reading them, dump in your mind and go and vomit in the examination. No, that is not what is going to happen here. What you will really have to do is, first of all, there are a lot of books. You will have to read all this knowledge that is there in the books. You will have to put it in your mind in a very organized, systematic, structured manner. Because if you put it haphazardly, Producing it in the exam will be impossible. Okay, so you will have to read it in such a fashion that very organized manner, systematic manner. Why? Because every student preparing for the examination is reading the same books or no? Yes, but then what is making the difference between the rankers and the failures? Everyone is reading the same books, but how to read these books? Which book should you read first, which a bit later? That is, what is the correct order of reading these books? Okay, and after reading them, you should go and write in the examination, right? So, in the examination, you can't simply go and write an answer. There, the examination, particularly the mains examination, you will have to write an answer for a given question in a very limited words and a limited time. The space is limited and time is limited. So, in that you will have to produce your knowledge in an orderly manner, in a logically arranged manner. Okay, and obviously doing these tasks will require some training, and that's what these classes are all about. So, it is how to read, which books to read, what is the order in which you have to read these books. And it is not only reading and memorizing, it is not just memorizing. You should be able to, whatever you have learnt, you should be able to link it with other topics. You should be able to apply it to current events, and then you will have to present it in the examination in limited words and time in a organized manner. Obviously, so that is because this is the task ahead of you, and as you can see, this requires some kind of practice. And if you know these things even before you start your journey, it will save your time. That's it. Okay, fine. So that is the main purpose of these videos. And before I proceed on further, how many of these sessions we will have? It will be 5 sessions. Okay. Now, why do we need 5 sessions? What I have done here is, the first session, that is today's session, we will be dealing with the overall subject, history. Okay. Whereas for the rest of the 4 sessions, we will be dedicating it to the individual components of the subject. As we will see now, history is a bit big subject, but then it has a lot of components. So the rest of the 4 will be for those components, and today's session will be overall. Okay, then let's get started with the today's session. I hope you have understood what is the purpose of these sessions and why are we doing, what is it and why. Okay, going into today's session, I have divided the discussion into 3 components. As I said, it will be very, very brief. You will study, you will see what is history, why should you study history, and how to study history. Okay, let's get started. What is history? See, history is a word which we have often listened from the childhood. Every one of us knows at least the basic definition, right? One thing is very clear, history is the study of the past. We don't study the present things happening in front of us. In history, always study about things which have already happened. What is happening right now, that is not a part of history. Okay, what has already happened. But then, here comes the difficulty. Many people see history as something which is a past thing. It's always like shown as a subject concerned with kings, battles and years and dates. Not necessarily, not necessarily. Because if you see, it is from this past that the present situation has come. We are all living in today in 2022, right? Where did 2022 come from? Without 1947, will we have a 2022? No. So without past, there cannot be any present. In fact, if you see, the beauty of the subject is that today is present, but by tomorrow, this day will become past. So even what is happening right now, tomorrow it will become the past, as a part of the past. So history is a very kind of a dynamic subject rather than the common opinion. So, studying about past does not mean that you are not connected to present. In fact, the past, understanding of the past is very necessary to understand the present, what is happening. Let me explain this with a few examples, okay. That is what I really want to tell here is, without understanding the past, you cannot understand the present properly. For example, recently you might have seen Prime Minister Modi had come to Hyderabad and inaugurated a huge statue of a Hindu saint by name Sri Ramanujacharya. And now that is a statue that has happened in the present times. But then when did this person live? Obviously he lived nearly 1000 years before the present times. But why are we still appreciating him? Because what he told at that time is even relevant today also. So now that maybe this is opening this statue is a present issue, but who is this person? Where will you understand about him? You have to go to past. Second, I'm just giving all of you examples. Russia and Ukraine are going on a war. Now why is Russia attacking Ukraine? Do you think is it because of only one small incident that Russia got so much of anger and attacked Ukraine? Not necessarily, not really. If you wish to understand what is happening here, you will have to go into the past again. You will have to understand what happened in the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, because all those events are what is leading to the war today. And in the context of Russia-Ukraine war, you might have often heard this word being used, World War III, which means already there should have been 2 world wars. And if you want to understand this, can I say that understanding of the First and Second World War becomes very important. And where do you study them again? Again you will study them under history itself. These are all past things. So now you clearly see that understanding the past will actually give you a better understanding of the present. See, today what is the ruling party in India? Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP. Now when was BJP formed? It was formed in 1980. Is it present or past? It is already past. And BJP is generally considered as the political arm of another organization called RSS, Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh. What is this body? Again a very famous body we keep hearing. It was formed in 1925. Again telling you that if you have to understand BJP, its ideology, you have to understand the mother body, that is RSS. But when did the mother body RSS come? It came in 1925. So you essentially have to understand. If you understand when, why and how RSS was formed, then obviously your understanding of the present BJP and its ideology will become easy for you all. Yes or no? Yes, I hope you are all able to understand why history is important for us. Like this, there are several examples that we can keep giving. But just to give you all a hint, I have given these 3 examples. 1 or 2 more also I can give. For example, the Jammu and Kashmir Article 370 has been removed. When did Article 370 start? Again, to understand the basis, you have to go back to the past. Okay, same everywhere. And the Ram Mandir issue that is going on in UP, Ayodhya, in 2019, again the Supreme Court has given a judgment on this. Again, to understand that, you will have to go into the past itself. Fine. So that is how past is not waste, past is related to the present. So it is definitely important. Now when you say about the past, whose past are you going to study? Indian history we have to study or no? Definitely, because we are Indians, we are preparing for UPSC, so Indian history we have to study. But UPSC is also wants you all to learn something about world history also, because India is not the only country in the world. We are important, India is an important country, but outside India also we have so many other countries. We are not going to study about individual details about each of these countries, but we should have a general idea about what is world history. So in this, the main components are the world history and the Indian history. Naturally, Indian history we will study in greater depth, whereas world history we will study only what is necessary for us. And that's the reason UPSC, when it has designed the syllabus, it has designed it so beautifully that world history is there only from the 18th century onwards. All that before, it's not really necessary. And one more thing is that it is only available for the main examination. It is not there for prelims. So you need not memorize facts and all these things. From here, you will have to study mainly concepts, some nice stories and important events and all these things. Okay, it's an important segment. Now coming to Indian history. Indian history has several components, as you will see. Ancient India, medieval India, all of these components, each of them you will see, as I said, we will have component wise videos also where I will talk in depth about them. Modern India, post independence, that is after we got independence from the British rule, and then the last component called art and culture. So on the whole, how many components do you have in history? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 components we have to study in all of these things. Okay. So these are the things that you will study under history. So summarizing before I move on to the next heading, that what is history? It is study of the past, but don't think that past is waste. Past has a lot of connection with the present. If you wish to understand the present, you need to have a good understanding of the past. And when it comes to components, what all components? Indian history, our main focus will be here. That's why you will have so many detailed study. But also there is outside India, there is a larger world. So some idea we must have about world history also. All these components you will get some videos a bit later. Okay, that's about the what component. Going to the why. Why should you study history? Again, first point itself, if you have seen the UPSC syllabus, there are 4 general studies papers. You know, in which paper do you have the history? General Studies 1. Now you will ask. 4 general studies papers are there. History, geography, polity, economy, security, ethics and all these things. But history, you will see, has been put in the first paper itself. They have not thrown it to the last. Why? That is showing you the importance of the subject or no? Yes. So I need not tell it. UPSC itself is telling you that history is important, and that's why they placed it in the first chapter, first paper itself. And now if you look at the weightage of history, as I said, in UPSC there is no escape from history. You essentially have to do it. In prelims, every year on an average 15 to 20 questions out of 100 questions have been coming from history. So that is carrying nearly 30 to 40 marks. Not a joke. Yes. And this year 2021 prelims, we got 20 questions, 20. So that generally varies between 15 to 20. Coming to the next stage of the examination, mains. In the paper 1, of the mains, you will generally get somewhere around 60 to 75 marks directly from history. But then that's the beauty of the subject, is that it is not only what you learn in history. Is it compulsory that you should use this knowledge in history only? Can you use this knowledge in other papers also? Yes, in most of the other papers, in paper 2, paper 3 and paper 4, you can use whatever your history knowledge you have. I am not saying absolutely, but still to some extent you can use that knowledge. And particularly in the essay paper, there you can actually show your history knowledge a lot in your essay. Because take any essay, you can write a historical dimension about it or no. Suppose you are writing about caste system. Caste system did not come in India in yesterday or tomorrow, the day before. It has come from thousands of years. Yes. So we had some great kings in India like Ashoka, Akbar, and many important kings we had in India. Okay. So all of these things you can actually mention them. For example, the important people like Buddha, the great books like Vedas and all these things had been written in India. Don't you think you can put them as a reference point in your essay? All of this will add value to your essays. So it is not only about paper 1, you can apply in other papers also. And don't you think in interview when you go to the final stage, there also having knowledge about the past adds depth to your opinions. Because whenever you take an issue, if you see that issue from the very beginning and till the end, obviously your opinions will be more balanced and justified, well justified. Okay, so even in interview, this definitely helps you. And the last point here, why you should study history is because almost all competitive examinations where there is a general studies paper, history is a component, is a basic component. So for other examinations also history is available. So when you read history, read it thoroughly, properly, so that once you prepare for the level of UPSC, all the other examinations generally come below it, right, the standard. So naturally, if you are preparing it for this level, this will automatically be done. Okay. Next, going to the last component of the discussion, then how should we study history? See, there is a technique called periodization. Now, what do you speak this word periodization? Simply take any component. Now, for example, you have written ancient, medieval, modern and so, right? Let us take ancient India. Now, if you look at ancient India, what is this technique? I am just giving through an example. The same technique we will use for all other components also. Ancient India, actually if you look at the years, it will go from 2600 BC to 750 AD. So how many years? Some nearly 3000 years you need to study. And no need to worry. Why? Because in this 3000 years, what do we mean by periodization? We simply break down this lengthy period into smaller periods. For example, the first period, as you will see in the later component video, I am just giving a brief introduction here. Indus Valley Civilization, we will study about this. Next, in ancient India we get something called Vedic age. That was a period when Vedas were written down. Then you will get pre-Mauryan age when the Gautam Buddha and Jain religions were born. The Mauryan Empire, when the great king Ashoka was there, and that's how you will divide this entire ancient India into smaller parts. And then once you divide into smaller parts, you will take each period 1, 2, 3, like this. In ancient India we have 7 periods. We will take each of these periods and read something about this. That's it. That's the very easiest method. Is that again for each of these period what you will study? You will study social, economic, political, cultural, religious events. So you will study for Indus Valley Civilization, you will study what was the society, economy, polity, religion, culture. Again for next stage the same points. For each stage you will study how the society is been changing, how economy has been changing, how politics has been changing. You will get a nice picture over this. It's all a kind of a story essentially. Okay. But now that is the first point. So breaking the big time period into smaller periods and looking at them individually. Now if you take any one period, take any one, will you study every event inside that period? No. Why? Not all events are important. If I ask you, you only look back into your own life. Do you remember your own past? No. At least not every single day, right? But in your life, there will be some important days, important events, important people. Yes or no? Those things do you remember? Yes. The same goes for this also. Every day, every person is not important. There are some important events, there are some important people, we will study more. So, it is not all events, we will study only mainly important events, people, processes. So, you see, again your task is becoming easy. Third, how will you study all these events and processes? How will you study them? How to study them? Suppose, take anything that has happened in the past. Okay. For example, a war happened. How will you study this war? It's not simply by hearting, right? You will ask, like, when did this war happen? So, how to study them? The easiest technique you have is to keep questioning, like, when did the war happen? Where did it happen? Who fought the war? Why did they fight this war? What was the end result of this war? Something like that. By raising a few questions, you will be able to get some minimum understanding or no? Because in the examination, if you get a question, you can't write 100 pages. There is a limited space and you have to write very crisp. And in that manner, this way of study will help you all very easily, make the task easy for you all. Next, so you can apply this technique for any person. For example, you want to study about, for example, take a King Ashoka. Again, how will you study about Ashoka? When did this Ashoka live? Which period he was living? Where did he live? Who was he? He was the king of an empire called Mauryan Empire. How did he become the king? What important things that he did over there? And how are these things important to the present times? If you can read like this, every event, every person in the past will become, you'll actually enjoy the subject rather than taking it as a burden. You'll start liking the subject because you're simplifying it, you're making it very simple. Okay. And then the fourth technique will be visualization. Rather than simply by hearting things, it's better that you put yourself in that scene. For example, you are discussing about a war. Don't simply read about war, but just imagine, try to feel that two sides, try to see it visually, that two sides are coming for a war, a big war, swords and horses and all these things. Just try to visualize things, you will start enjoying the subject actually. Suppose if you are studying about a big emperor, Aurangzeb, Akbar or Chandragupta Maurya, anyone like this, what should you do? You should put yourself in the shoes of that emperor and see that you are ruling such a big kingdom and you are maintaining an army, you have so many officers under you, you have to rule so much of big area. So what will happen actually, you will get immersed into the subject and you will start actually enjoying it. Okay. So that will also, all of these things, I am just giving it right now in a very, very brief manner. We will keep applying this in the everyday classroom course. This is what we will be doing, and as we do it again and again, you will tend to master these techniques. Okay. And then finally, I close this with the last point, that attitude is very important. Now, when you have to study any subject, not only history, if you think that it is, oh, I have to study so much, this books, that books, if you take it like that, no, you will really not enjoy it. So attitude, what do I mean by attitude is nothing but, see, study with pleasure, not pressure. That is, take this reading as an opportunity to learn knowledge. Don't see it as a burden. Because why are you preparing for the examination? Not for your sake of your parents or something. No? You have to essentially do something for yourself and for the country also. So naturally, this kind of an attitude, if I have to study this, I have to study that, no. But imagine if you change your attitude, if you see, oh God, if I can learn more about so many great people in the history, I can learn about Napoleon, I can learn about Hitler, you can learn about people like Kautilya, who has written a famous book like Arthashastra. So many people you will meet about them and you learn about them in history, and what you learn from them, you can actually apply it in your daily life also and improve your life. Okay, so this is a very, very brief introduction, as I said, and that's it for this video, and I'll soon catch up with you guys again on the next video, where I'll said we will have 4 more sessions. Thank you.